Dane and Derek is an uncensored, unfiltered podcast. You can find content warnings in the episode description. Thank you for listening. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Dane and Derek Show. My name is Derek. I'm a filmmaker, and I sometimes slow things down with my good pal, Dane.
Hey, everyone. I'm Dane. I'm a writer. I'm a law student. I love a lot of things. And
Yeah.
I also like taking it easy.
Yeah. And that is what we're doing this week. We're talking about slowing down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Big breath in. Big breath out. Anyways. Yeah, no, this was another suggestion of mine. Because my life, and I think your life too, is at a really rapid pace. And in some ways, it's at such a pace that it actually is slowing down my perception of time.
Yeah.
But that's not really like always a good thing. Like I'm trying to soak that feeling up a bit, but it's not slow in the way I'm kind of talking about. You know?
Yes?
I guess what I mean is that like our society, our country pretty specifically, doesn't really put much emphasis or value on anything that cannot be accorded a sign of progress, typically in a financial sense. And so I think that sometimes there needs to be a moment to think about and advocate for the slow things because like it's so easy to like wake up one morning and you don't really know where you are because and I don't mean that in like a literal sense, but like a sense of like, when the fuck did it get to be November sort of feeling, or like when did this happen? Like, oh my God, that was 3 weeks ago. Where did the time go? Like, there's a need to breathe. There's a need to like understand your own existence, you know? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that I especially am in a realm where, in a professional setting, I am in some cases to track what I'm doing down to the minute, for billing purposes. And that's a really intense way to live. And I find some of the most beautiful moments in my life be the moments that are sort of timeless because they're allowed to be really slow. Does that make sense? This is the sort of thing, kind of like Ma, where we have to talk around it because it's one of those things that's a negative. Like it's hard to define because it's the absence of something, not an affirmative something, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's not like taking a vacation is an active slowing down, but giving yourself ample time, which is very vague, that's like a negative in the sense of like a deficit of things.
Yes.
Slowing down, you know, like I suppose that, like, that is the way to think about it. Like yeah, like when everything you do is tracked by minute, second, hour, when everything you do is rated against, well, can it make money? Did a lot of people read it? Did it get a billion views? How do you just enjoy touching roots, you know, smelling the air, taking that extra 30 minutes to like saute something correctly or whatever?
Exactly.
Enjoying making a slow cup of coffee, like, you know, I swear this episode is not an advertisement for like how we grind our coffee beans and make a pour over like every podcaster and YouTuber that lives today. But I think like yeah, it is Ma. The moment it is this is haha, we got you. This is a Ma episode. Um
Basically, yeah.
yeah, but it's the idea of like the space between things, the breaths between the notes.
Mm-hmm.
And like how yeah, as we're getting older, like when we were teenagers, perhaps we had too much of a slowdown. And so everything wants to ramp up. And when there's space, we fill it. And then we get to that middle period that we're now coming out of where everything's full and it feels fine. Now everything's full and it perhaps doesn't feel as fine. We're both
Yeah.
approaching, age shouldn't matter in the sense of like milestones like this, but we are both approaching 30.
Mm-hmm.
We are in very different positions this year than we were even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think we're in our late 20s. The time of hustling and being out on the town. I guess we're kind of over it. um, and to a degree, right? There's a desire to have space for ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I think of slowing down, I think of that desire to have that time we had as kids that was perhaps too much idle or slow or nothing time to just exist. And that's a really interesting conundrum and change and shift. Yeah.
Yeah, I started kind of running up against this recently when I started trying to track time in a second way. Um, because like we have an artifice for time. We have months, we have weeks, we have hours, we have minutes, we have seconds, right? We have these like breakdowns, right? Um, but that's not really how it works, right? Like we say a day is 24 hours, but also a day is the time from which there's sunlight until the time there is no longer sunlight. And in that way, a day actually shifts constantly in length.
Uh
Um,
huh.
and there is and also that shifts depending on where you are on the planet,
Yeah.
right? Like in certain parts of the northern hemisphere right now, there is almost no light. A day is a handful of hours at best. um and later next year they will have almost no night. And there's something wild about that. And so like I was really trying to pay attention to the changing leaves this year. And in the Front Range of Colorado, they were particularly we got a particularly long change because we didn't get like a heavy snow until just pretty recently, so it didn't like knock all the leaves off before they could change.
Yeah.
So they were particularly vibrant, and I was like paying attention to that. And I'm going to make note of the blossomings in spring, right? There are these other notations. I was really excited this past weekend when it did snow because that was a signifier. It was a meaning that like I had reached another winter, right? Like we were here. Um and that's a much slower way of being with time, because for me at least, because I'm not on my own schedule and I'm not on anybody else's. I'm on the world's schedule. And I know that sounds like very silly and hippy dippy, but like I can't make it go any faster or slower. The first snow is going to come when the first snow is going to come. Um, and so I think there's so much we miss because we're not paying attention to other things. I don't know.
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think it's really easy to miss those things. And it's interesting, like documenting time, like there's a lot of people now on the internet who are like filmmakers, vloggers who document every day, every week, every month of their life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for some folks, it is like a way to profit. And for other folks, it's simply so they don't forget. Um, there was this YouTuber who famously stopped making YouTube videos. And I mean, like a lot of ones, but in this case, it was because he said, I'm done with college. I started this YouTube channel when I started college, and I'm graduating college. Therefore,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to end this. It's time to move into a new season of my life and to document it a different way. Um, and yeah, he walked away from it. And I think about how, like, I have friends who, the way they document things is, like keeping a journal of like what meals they ate, or um my girlfriend, she'll go through her Google Calendar, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of like tracking meetings and stuff like that and like her to do, she'll go back and she'll create events and write like details and things and like almost journal.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, I've found it's become a lot of trying to make sure that there's a walk in the day. And if I'm taking photographs, to make sure that I archive those photographs or I collect it in some manner that is easy to share with people I'm close to. Um, I think, yeah, I guess it's like there's like that tangibleness about it. Um, there's also like the simple routine of it all. Um, I don't know, kind of rambling.
This is the episode to ramble,
True, 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 true.
and there's the space for it, right? Like, I think about like to kind of like go off of that, like my uh thing that I keep is journals of various kinds. And I don't necessarily write in them every day. I'm trying to right now. Um, but I have journals of music, I have journals of poetry, I have 3 journals that make up the first novel I ever wrote. I have planners, I have the podcasts I do. Like, this is sort of one of those too. Um, I document my life in mostly creative works. Um, and I think that that's a lovely thing that lots of humans do in all kinds of ways. Um, and I don't know. I don't know how to get more space in life in some ways sometimes. Um,
Mm,
because there's just so much of it. Like there's family I want to see, there's things I want to do and people I want to talk to, like this, like our recording right now. I woke up today at 6 a.m. and in some ways I already felt like I was hurtling towards this recording this evening.
mm-hmm.
Um, because it was like, I've got these things I got to do today, like bam, 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 they're scheduled in, all of that. And I don't remember exactly when this was. I think it was back in September. But I woke up one morning and Gracie asked me, she was like, "What are you going to do today?" And I said, "I don't know." And that was like magic, I'll admit, because
Yeah.
I didn't. And I had ideas. I had ideas about what I was going to do that day. I think I played some video games. Um, I think I went to the gym. Um, and I think I did some writing that day. But I didn't mean to. I didn't plan to. It just was part of my day.
Yeah.
And that's what I think I'm looking for more and more of.
Mm,
And it's just incompatible with late stage capitalism, and it's incompatible with the fact that everybody's goddamn busy and you got to schedule everything if you want to see people, at
mm-hmm.
our age, like you said, the end of the 20s going towards 30.
Yeah.
Some of my dear friends are already in their 30s. And so that feeling is something that needs to be cultivated. It needs to be carved out. Um, it's almost a paradox. Like, to have that time, you need to block out that time, which means you need to kind of schedule it. But the idea is for it not to be scheduled, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, to that end, I guess to a degree, last weekend I was very lucky that I had 2 days back to back like that,
Oh, amazing.
where one day all I knew was my girlfriend was coming over and we were going to have the day together. Didn't know what we were going to do, didn't know what we were going to eat, where we were going to go, or what we were going to do, if we were going to watch a movie, talk, whatever. We just kind of winged it, played it by ear.
Mm-hmm.
The other day, I knew that once I woke up, it was like, okay, time to do something. Uh, and that something ended up becoming like uh, an unplanned full reset of my apartment and my space. And I had I had like, I don't know, 3 hours to sit and like watch one of my favorite movies that I hadn't rewatched it in a while. Um, but when I woke up that morning, didn't really know where the day was going to take me. And I think like now that we're talking about it, having 2 of those days back to back is truly unheard of. Um,
Yeah.
for people like us, and especially like with the sort of commitments we have, and
Mm-hmm.
because of the society we live in. Um, I think like it's interesting. I've gotten to a point where if I'm going to see someone, I try not to plan anything before or after I'm seeing them. I don't
Yeah.
ever. I like. There's probably a start time, but I always try to leave the rest of the day available because I don't know. Like I'd like to spend time with them. I'd like to see them. Obviously, I don't want to put a cap on that. I don't want to make them feel the pressure of time. Um, and I think like that practice has been a helpful way of reclaiming that slowness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I also think a reduction in my creative, in my, it's something I've been sort of reconciling with, but a reduction in the creative practice in the public eye has been an interesting shift in time. And trying to, I think the less that is out there of my work on a consistent basis, the more time I feel like I have to work on my work and do a good job and to like relax with it versus like the push to press publish all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think both are healthy, but it is different. Um, I think it's like it was one of those things where I was looking at my calendar and I was like, if I want to do some of the things I want to do, I have to be willing to say no to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of slowing down is learning how to say no. Um,
Absolutely.
and I think the complicated part is like we're not like we're not like mid or late career guys right now.
No.
We are still early career, and it still feels like we have to say yes all the time. Um, but for instance, like I had there was an instance where I had to say no to something so I could go do something else, and um, it was one of those moments where it was a very proud moment that I said no to that thing, and it opened up a door for me to be there for something different that is perhaps more interesting and more gonna be more fulfilling to attend and do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think like being able to look at your calendar and say like no, like, and to a degree, it's not even about saying no. It's about not opening that space, you know.
Yeah.
And that's so hard. It is so hard to hold that space for yourself. Um, but like for instance, it's like I know I'm only going to go to the gym if I don't plan anything in my evening.
Mm-hmm.
But if at the instant I make commitments, there's no way I can squeeze in it becomes a squeeze in versus like I have ample time to get to the gym and back and I don't have to worry about anyone else or myself even having the time or being on time. Like
Absolutely.
when it's almost like the best way to slow down is to not know that you need to be at work at 9 a.m. and leave at 5. Like, you have to do work, you have to cook, you
Mm-hmm.
probably have to go like see that one person today. But like when it happens in the day, up to you.
Flexible.
Yeah, it's like reclaiming that flexibility is like key, I feel. And that's hard.
It really is. And I just want to add that, like, when you were talking about you and I have an additional problem with this because we have um other things we care about. I was talking with Gracie literally yesterday as we were driving home. Ironically from going to the gym in the evening. When I kind of was just like looking out the window and I said, I bet a ton of my classmates, when they're in class, that's it. That's their thing that they're going to do today. And not in a bad way, like not disparaging this at all. But they went to class and they might have some people in their life they really care about, but everything else is just sort of not throwaway fun, but it's throwaway fun, right?
hmm
They don't go home and think, man, did I get to my novel today? Fuck. They
Yeah.
don't go home and think about that sort of stuff, right?
Yeah.
They don't have this additional pressure that they put on themselves to create. Maybe they don't even work out. Maybe that's just not they don't really do that. They're not unhealthy or anything, but they don't do
Right.
that. Like,
Yeah.
it's they don't create additional obligations. So there
Yeah.
is only work and play. And I
hmm
think society is really set up for those people. Um and I think it's less set up for people who, I need work and I need play and I need my endeavor in that is not necessarily a financial boon.
Yeah.
Um I think people who need that are put at a slight disadvantage um in terms of stress and
Yeah.
managing their time.
Oh
Um
yeah. Because
you know.
now it's stacks on stacks that fill your day, and then by the time you have any space left, it's not a lot of wiggle room unless you sacrifice sleep, and
Mhm.
then you're sacrificing your health, and then it like trickles into everything else. Like
Exactly.
perhaps the starving artist is starving for time
I think so.
and space. Like perhaps that is the real thing an artist is starved for is, and that's why we claw at every opportunity to have that space and time to work on something.
Mhm.
um yeah, yeah, man.
But in the interest of giving people time, I think we should wrap the episode here.
Yeah, that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you to anyone listening for giving us your spare 25 minutes.
mhm.
Um, and I hope it's a really peaceful, slow day, or if it's not today, you have one soon.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Catch you
See ya.
later.